So what has happened? How do we, in this pluralistic culture, do apologetics? What is apologetics? Apologetics is that discipline which comes from the Greek word apologia, which literally means to give an answer to the questions of people. But it has that twin responsibility of making truth claims clear and giving answers to the questions that people ask. The Apostle Peter says, "But to set apart Christ in your heart as Lord, and always be prepared to give an answer to anyone who asks of you the reason for the hope that is within you, and to do that with gentleness and respect." I cannot think of a more beautiful definition of what apologetics is. And this came from a fisherman who had also seen that extraordinary disclosure in the transfiguration of the Lord Jesus. Such a spectacular event vouchsafed to only a handful. So spectacular was it that he said to his Lord, "Let's stay right here. I don't want to go down there again." But the Lord told them that they had a work to be done and took them back into the mainstream of people. You and I would love to be in that cloistered existence of a spectacular revelation, but this is our time in history. Regardless how bleak it may seem, how dark it may seem. My colleague and I were talking about this earlier today, and I made the comment to him. I said, this is the most open time that I have ever sensed, but it's also the most difficult time at which to give clear and convincing answers. The struggles we have began about 40 to 50 years ago. And a Canadian writer said this: in the 1950s, kids lost their innocence. They were liberated from their parents by well-paying jobs, cars, and lyrics and music that gave rise to a new term, the generation gap. In the 1960s, kids lost their authority. It was the decade of protest. Church, state, and parents were all called into question and found wanting. Their authority was rejected, yet nothing ever replaced it. In the 1970s, kids lost their love. It was the decade of meism, dominated by hyphenated words beginning with self, self-image, self-esteem, self-assertion. It made for a very lonely world. Kids learned everything there was to know about sex, forgot everything there was to know about true love, and few had the nerve to tell them that there was indeed a difference. In the 1980s, kids lost their hope, stripped of innocence, authority, and love, and plagued by the horror of a nuclear nightmare. Large and growing numbers of this generation have stopped believing in the future. I put this as a postscript. In the 1990s, kids have lost their power to reason. Lost in a world of cyberspace, they have now personalized objects and totally subjectivized reality, and they are now imprisoned in a deep world of their own loneliness.